All you beautiful people, we are back.
Risk, or to increase your speed.
I'll make this a different video. But this was very good. Well done. 23 lessons for 2025. That was a very good video. If you guys want to watch it, it's about an hour 21, hour 22 minutes. Very good by Modern Wisdom. He's actually 8th on the podcasting. 4 million subscribers. Good job, Christopher. He just posted one today, which is the best moments. Doggo! Bubbles getting on.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to the show. It is the end of 2025, and to celebrate, I've put together a collection of my favorite moments from the podcast over the last 12 months. Some huge episodes that you probably saw, some other episodes that maybe you missed, and I've put them all together in an interesting flow and pacing, and I really loved all of these. I love all.
give me. Alright, people, I got my tea. It's now good.
Thousand and 40 of my podcast children, but these were just some highlights.
Congrats.
From 2025. I appreciate you all for being here. I appreciate you all for making Modern Wisdom the 8th biggest podcast in the world.
Congrats.
According to Spotify Wrapped this year, which is insane. And thank you for all the support and all the shares and all the everything. Thank you for staying patient with me when I've tried to bring in new ideas and guests that you've never heard of. I really, really do work hard to try and curate a nice art gallery that, even if you don't know who the artist is, you're probably going to enjoy their work. So thank you for sticking with me as I go down rabbit holes that you didn't know that you were going to enjoy, and commenting and all of the support and everything. Especially this year more than ever, it's meant an awful lot to me. So yeah, I appreciate every single one of you. Before we get into it, you need to do an end of your review. And the review process that I use for myself, that I've stolen from all the best productivity guys on the planet, is at chriswillx.com/review. Literally hundreds of thousands of people have recorded it and done their work on it already, and you can get it for free. Copy it into your notes app and do your end of your review. So chriswillx.com/review. Anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Merry
Let's
Christmas.
get into it.
You do not need to be liked by everybody. You need to choose your friends and your enemies carefully.
The worst outcome in the world is not having self-esteem. Why?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Okay, worst outcome to have is not having any self-esteem. Without self-esteem, you won't be esteemed to have a self-ego or a self-corrected mindset. 'Cause without self-esteem, you can't judge which one is self and which one is the esteem. Do you understand? So what I mean by that is, without one, there is not another. Without one, there is not a bottom level. So there's levels to this, and knowing and understand which ones will help you more and which ones will be more of a frame of mind of where you see fit. Because our words are a weapon of mass destruction. It could be mass, it could be positive, it could be negative. But without self-esteem, you are nothing in the realm of self-idolized apologies or idolized self, if that makes sense.
I look at the people, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I look at the people who don't like themselves, and that's the toughest slot, because they're always wrestling with themselves, and it's hard enough to face the outside world, and no one's going to like you more than you like yourself. So if you're struggling with yourself, then the outside world becomes an insurmountable challenge. And it's hard to say why people have.
Agreed, if you struggle with the outside world, yourself comes before anybody besides the outside world. Not anybody else's problems, but your problems come before anybody else's. And knowing that we all have our own issues, now we all have our own pitfalls and shortcomings, know that this will come into effect whenever you go through self-realization or egotistic realization. Know that yourself comes before anything else than what you do. What do you do when it's only you in the room? For me, I record videos, I use AI as a journal, I use a lot of things as journal prompts, so then I can learn to become one of the greats, because without the greats, then you are nothing, the way I look at it. What I usually do is I make content. I'll stream on YouTube Live. I'll do things to make my night better. Without making it better, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse. If that makes sense. Because when you idolize the distractions take over you. This is a distraction. This is what you should do. Understand? Comprende? Because the distraction is lower than what the value of what you achieve to do and achieve to become. Now I gotta go dump this out because I'm out of tea. Oops.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone. But getting in the zone.
One of these things can cause you, in this present moment,
the worst outcome in the world is not.
I look at the people, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I look at the people who don't like themselves, and that's the toughest slot because they're always wrestling with themselves, and it's hard enough to face the outside world, and no one's gonna like you more than you like yourself. So if you're struggling with yourself, then the outside world becomes an insurmountable challenge, and it's hard to say why people have low self-esteem. It might be genetic, it might just be circumstantial. A lot of times I think it's because they just weren't unconditionally loved as a child, and that sort of seeps in at a deep core level. But self-esteem issues can be the most limiting. One interesting thought is that, to some extent, self-esteem is a reputation you have with yourself. You're watching yourself at all times. You know what you're doing. You have your own moral code. Everyone has a different moral code. But if you don't live up to your own moral code, the same code that you hold others to, it will damage your self-esteem. So perhaps one way to build up your self-esteem is to live up to your own code very rigorously. Have one and then live up to it.
Because without the code, you are just nothing but thoughtless action in the abyss. Without the code, nobody can copy you. You're your own carbon copy of yourself. So what are you going to do to become that better version?
Another way to raise your self-esteem might be to do things for others. If I look back on my life and what are the moments that I'm actually proud of, there's very far and few between. And it's not that often, and it's not the things you would expect. It's not the material success. It's not having learned this thing or that. It's when I made a sacrifice for somebody or something that I loved. And that's when I'm actually, ironically, most proud. Now, that's through an explicit mental exercise, but I'll bet you at some level I'm recording that implicitly. So that tells me that even if I am not loved, and the way to create love is to give love, to express love through sacrifice and through duty. And so I think doing things like that can
Without
build up yourself.
sacrifice and duty, your purpose may be blind and not fortunate. Because without love, you are just blinded through the agonizing pain of tomorrow or today. The way I look at love and duty is that love is one thing, duty is another. Without love, you cannot have duty, you cannot have sacrifice, you cannot have religion, you cannot have anything. Because without duty, you are just thoughts in the abyss and walking through time and space and energy and action, and all this is just wasted, pointless, motivated duties without the purpose of being actual understanding through the duties, if that makes sense. Actual duties for me are just understanding what we all have to go through, what we all have to understand, what we all have to teach, what we all have to believe about oneself. Because without this so-called self-identity, your duty will become wasted time and space.
Really fast.
It's interesting when you talk about sacrifice, because a lot of the time people say, well, I sacrificed so much for my job. It's like, yeah, but that was you sacrificing something that you wanted less for something that you wanted more.
Agreed. If you sacrifice for a job, like for me, sacrificing is making a video. Like actually making this video, it's very hard for me to try to get everything out on words, which I could talk about one thing. Like I could talk about sacrifice for the whole entire video if I really wanted to. but I would rather not, because I'd rather just sum it all up. Which your job is only sacrificed to your employer. You're sacrificing to get a paycheck from that employer. That's the only thing that you could be sacrificing.
As opposed to genuinely taking some sort of cost. And yeah, I wonder whether if self-esteem is you adhering to your internal your actions and your values aligning, even when it's difficult, or perhaps even more so when it's difficult.
Yep.
I wonder whether there is a price that people who are more introspective, high integrity pay,
Definitely.
because you think, well, you've got this heavier set of overheads that you need to pay in some way.
Well, if being ethical were profitable, everybody would do it, right? So, at some level, it does involve a sacrifice, but that sacrifice can also be thought of as you're thinking for the long term rather than the short term. For example, the virtues are the set of virtues is a set of beliefs that if everybody in society followed them as individuals, it would lead to win-win outcomes for everybody. So if I am honest and you are honest, then we can do business more easily, we can interact more easily because we can trust each other. So even though there might be a few liars in the system, as long as there aren't too many liars and too many cheaters, a high trust society where everybody's honest is better off. And I think a lot of the virtues work this way, right? If I don't go around sleeping with your wife and you don't sleep with mine, and if I don't take all the food that's at the table first and so on, then we all get along better and we can play win-win games.
Agreed.
In game theory, the most famous game is Prisoner's Dilemma, but that's all about everybody cheating. And the Nash equilibrium, the stable equilibrium there is everybody cheats. And the only way you can play a win-win game is if you have long-term iterated moves. But that's not actually...
The only winning game you can have is have long-term iterative moves. That's very good. Well said by Ravikant. Because without the win-wins, you are going to be nothing besides thoughts in the abyss and actions in the space of time, which you could have acted on them, but you never did. You were afraid to. You were too much of a pussy to truly act on it. So, I'm gonna name names. So, pussy, understanding, wisdom. After understanding comes wisdom, then comes knowledge, because wisdom comes before knowledge, and then power. Pussy, you don't know what the fuck you are. Knowledge, or action, or self-belief comes next, because without those two you will not act upon anything. So that's called directed mindset. Wisdom only comes after, when you learn the thing, and then when knowledge comes into a factor, when you can actually teach people about those certain things, if that makes sense. And power. You have power over your words. You have power over your thoughts. You have the power over your own fucking life. So you can change, you can stay the same, or you can stay stagnant. One of those three things. Change, stagnation, or don't do anything at all, which is called the pussy mindset. That's the way I look at it. So the way I look at the last three, which is wisdom, knowledge, and power. Power comes before anything else, because without it, you don't have the wisdom, you won't have the knowledge, without the power after all of it. Because you are learning, you are trying, you are achieving, you're doing something that makes the ball rolling, and then once the ball rolls, you gain wisdom, and then after that wisdom, you gain power, after that wisdom, you gain knowledge, and after that knowledge, you can tell people what you want through the power of your own words, what you learned, what you went through, how you went to it, if that makes more sense. Let me know if you want to explain that more, because I'm kind of confusing myself.
Most common game played in society. The most common game played is one called a stag's hunt, where if we cooperate, we can bring down a big stag and both have big dinners. But if we don't cooperate, then we have to go hunt like rabbits, and we each have small dinners. So most of and that game has two stable equilibriums.
And I think that comes back to knowledge. You have to have supper. Without supper, you will not learn. You will not eat. You will not gain the protein. Comprende?
could be we're both hunting the rabbit, and one could be where we're hunting the stag. So the high trust society is a more virtuous society where I can trust you to come hunt the stag with me and show up on time and do the work and divide it up properly. So you want to live in a system where everybody has their own set of virtues and follows them, and then we all win. But I would argue you don't need to do that for sacrifice. You don't need to do that for other people. You can do it just purely for yourself.
Agreed.
You will have higher self-esteem. You will
Agreed.
attract other high virtue people.
Would
in the
I
system.
go on a stag hunt with me?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And if you're the kind of person, who long-term signals ethics and virtues, then you'll attract other people who are ethical and virtuous. Whereas if you are a shark, you will eventually find yourself swimming entirely amongst sharks, and that's an unpleasant existence.
Agreed.
But again, this goes back to the
I like that. I like that. Swimming with sharks terminology. I need a better color. Alrighty. Oh, let me go grab more water too. I will be right back. Gotta get more water. Alrighty. So, swimming with sharks. So if you swim with, hopefully you guys understand that part. If you swim with a lot of sharks, you will have less food to have for yourself. So when you go out on your own as a shark, when you have a family, you need to feed that so-called family. Or that so-called kid or whatever the hell. If you swim with a pack of sharks, you will have less food for yourself and for others to eat. Which is what I'm implying, and which is why hunter-gatherer times, you need all the food you can have, because without the mentality of going out on your own and doing whatever you want to do, the shark mentality is that if you do it by yourself, you have more food and more things to have within that mentality, if that makes sense. So that mentality is to pretend you're a shark or a beluga whale and you swim with other beluga whales or you swim with other sharks. What will happen to get to that mentality? Because without the mentality of swimming alone or swimming with a tribe, swimming alone you can have more food. With a tribe you have less. Because it's more picked over. Your options are more picked over, is what he was implying. So that's why swimming by yourself is a lot better than anything else. And that can be around with business, entrepreneurship, content creation. Is that the more you do it, the better your evidence, the better the standstill becomes, because you become more of the weapon that you can wield and more advice that you can give.
The marshmallow test. And by the way, the marshmallow
not the
test does not
marshmallow
replicate.
test.
I
fake-
saw
fake
it
science.
got
Yeah.
replication crisis hard
right.
recently.
But
Yep.
it is about trading off the short term for the long term.
Yep.
And so I think for a lot of
That's
these,
another thing, is that without the short term, you will have no long-term goals. Because you need short-term goals and you need a lot of long-term goals. So, write them down. Only for you to know. You can tell your parents, you can tell other people, but it's only truly for you to know.
all virtues, there are long-term selfish reasons to be virtuous.
Yeah. Did you deal with self-doubt in the past? Is that something that was a hurdle for you to overcome?
Yes and no. I think I dealt with self-doubt in the sense that, oh, I don't know what I'm doing and I need to figure it out. But I didn't doubt myself in the way of somebody else knows better than me for me, or that, I'm an idiot or I'm not worthwhile or anything.
Hey, Mom. How long till it's ready? What you said? Whiskers from Zach Bryan? Zach Bryan? Yeah, it's Zach Bryan. Okay, so I have like 20 to 30 minutes to actually record. And then after, I'll make a video.
I guess I had the benefit of, I grew up with a lot of love. Like, the people around me loved me unconditionally. And so that just gave me a lot of confidence. Not the kind of confidence that would say, I have the answer, but the kind of confidence that I will figure it out and I know what I want, or only I am a good arbiter of what I want.
Yeah, that level of self-belief, I suppose, allows you to determine what is it that matters to me.
Yep.
My self-esteem, should I chase this thing or not? I can make a fair judgment on that, as opposed to being so swayed. But it's such a good point about, even if you think you're not consciously logging the stuff that you're doing. There is some that's in the back of your mind. Was it the daemon? Is that what the ancient Greeks or something used to talk
Yeah,
about?
yeah. Also in computer science, like there's a concept of a daemon, which is a program that's always running in the background. You can't see it.
I like
Okay.
that.
But
like
yeah,
that a
it
lot.
probably comes from the ancient Greek daemon. But yeah,
So a program that runs in the background, that could be like your ego, that could be your self-talk, that could be for your discipline or your motivation. All 4 or 5 of those things that I just listed, I could go more into detail, but you know what those are in your own words. So I don't need to explain in my own words.
what you know. You don't even know you know is far greater than what you know you know.
Yep.
Right? You can't even articulate
like
most
that.
of the things you know.
I
There are
like that.
feelings you have that have no words for them. There are thoughts you have that are felt within the body or subconsciously that you never articulate to yourself. You can't articulate the rules of grammar.
Everything that you articulate, most people don't have, and you can't even fully articulate it in your own words, perspective, or in your own realm of being, is what he is implying.
Yet you exercise them effortlessly when you speak. So I would argue that your implicit knowledge and your knowledge that is unknown to yourself is far greater than the knowledge you can articulate and that you can communicate. And some level, you're always watching yourself. That's what your consciousness is, right? It's the thing that's watching everything, including your mind, including your body. So if you want to have high self-esteem, then earn your own self-respect.
I like that. I like that. If you want high self-esteem, you gotta earn your own self-respect. 'Cause without your own self-respect, you won't be able to do the things you want to do. You won't say the things you want to say. You won't accomplish the things you want to accomplish, is what he's implying.
It's watching everything, including your mind, including your body. So if you want to have high self-esteem, then earn your own self-respect.
If you want to have high self-esteem, you have to earn your own self-respect.
I had this idea, the internal golden rule. So the golden rule says treat others the way that you should be treated, you want to be treated. The internal golden rule says treat yourself like others should have treated you. And it was
Treat others like
riposte.
they should be treating you. I like that. Because without you treating others about the way you want to be treated, they won't understand everything and anything. like that a lot. Because if you don't treat others how you want to be treated, other people won't know how to treat you. They won't know how to treat yourself. You won't know how to treat others because you don't know how to treat yourself or others before yourself. If that makes sense.
To maybe people that didn't grow up with unconditional love.
Yeah.
In that way.
On the love thing, one of the interesting things about love is you can try to remember the feeling of being loved. So go back to when someone was in love with you or someone did love you, and like really remember that feeling, like really sit with it and try to recreate it within yourself.
Awesome.
And then go to the feeling of you loving someone and when you were in love. And I'm not even talking about romantic love necessarily, so be a little careful there. I'm talking more about like love for
And sometimes get complex if you're talking about past romantic love.
right, a sibling or a child or something like that, or a parent. And think about when you felt love towards someone or something. And now, which is better? And I would argue that the feeling of being in love is actually more exhilarating than the feeling of being loved. Being loved is a little cloying. It's a little too sweet. You kind of want to push.
Okay, you might want to push them away a little bit. You might want to actually look at your life and see how your life is being treated right now. But like feeling loved. Wait, hold on. I gotta rewatch that.
And I would argue that the feeling of being in love is actually more exhilarating than the feeling of being.
The feeling of being in love versus showing love. Because without showing love of being in love, then you won't know where that representation of, I think, whatever he stated, which he stated it twice, and I still don't know what the fuck he stated. Which, the feeling of whatever he stated is just better because you know what it is to feel in that way versus the other way, you feel more distant and more pushed away, if that makes sense.
Being loved is a little cloying. It's a little too sweet. You kind of want to push the person away. It's a little embarrassing. And you know that if that person is too much into it, that you feel constrained. On the other hand, the feeling of being in love is very expansive. It's very open. It actually makes you a better version of yourself. It makes you want to be a better person.
I like that.
And so you can create love anytime you want. It's just that craving to receive it that's the problem.
You can, let me just play a side. You can be in love as much as you want. It just depends upon how you are playing to feel that love or to understand that love.
A daytime house music party in Austin on Saturdays called
Oh,
the
Tom
Cowboy.
Segura. I forgot
So
he had this.
it's,
Microdose, the kind of event.
I don't know. I think they're kind of hinting at that, but it's in a coffee. Well, it was outside of a coffee shop off Congress.
Yeah.
So I turn up at. Half 10. It started at 10, and the queue is 250 yards long for coffee.
What?
And there must have been 1,500 people there. One guy brought a baguette, was raving with his baguette. His dogs, you know, pretty sober looking from the outside. Maybe some people smoking weed, but I think this is maybe the beginning of us seeing the end of like hardcore drink culture. If you've looked at how few of Gen Z now drink,
Yes.
it's I think maybe 20%.
The interesting thing is like the theories on why, because there's obviously they have to be theories, right? On we don't actually know exactly. Yeah. One of them is that the youth views drinking as like what their parents did, right? So that's like, that's like,
Naturally uncool.
yeah.
Yep.
My fucking lame ass dad drinks. Like I'm not interested. And so that's one thing. The other part of it is that this group of people that are the youth right now are so much more informed on what the negative aspects of drinking and what it can do to you, that they're just like, why would I
Subject
consume
myself.
this? Yeah, to something like that. And that they've found this whole other, when you want to take the edge off, there's a lot more options, and it's also a lot more accepted today than it was 20 years ago. Like the idea that you could microdose or do edibles or smoke, or you know what I mean. And then there's like all the
Well, I mean, I was a stoner back in high school, and I extremely cut back in high school. But like, microdosing really does help, I think, in multiple ways, like he stated. But 20% down, that is insane. Like, from our previous generation to us, 20% decrease down from drinking. That's mind-boggling, if I'm being honest.
ketamine and everything is like I have different things that I do when I want to have a recreational good time.
Same here.
And yeah, but it's undeniable that it's definitely way down.
There's more daily users in the US of weed now than there are of alcohol.
Wow.
Is that for real?
Overtaken, or at least that was the most recent study that I saw. In the US, there are now more daily or near daily marijuana users than daily or near daily alcohol users.
That thought was just completely like, if you're a teen right now, you don't understand how preposterous that sounds coming from, like, if you were growing up in the 80s and 90s, like you were just like, those were like fringe people almost, you know what I mean? Like, yes, it was popular, but it was not like a respectable person really wasn't doing that, you know? It was like the arts, it was like hippies and yeah, it was, I mean, people thought of it as like the absolute worst thing that could happen. I mean, people from like my dad's generation likened marijuana to heroin. They didn't even see like really a difference. They're just like, you're a junkie. It's like, but what, for smoking a joint? And like, yeah, that's the way they viewed it. So the fact that it's that accepted now, it's mind-blowing to me.
I wonder if some of it is that drinking in the house on your own feels pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
But smoking in the house on your own, you're like, I'm playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. But if you're 6 beers deep playing Call of Duty,
yeah,
it's a different story.
Yeah, and you're not playing well at that. You're just like,
I don't know how well people are playing on weed either, but
fuck.
yeah,
you're probably more likely to yell out pejorative slurs. Yeah, I think that. I mean, look, smoking is still not good for you. So like, you're probably, but we've discovered that, you know, there's other ways to ingest and like consume, and that's what I think is part of like this youth culture thing about staying away from drinking. Is they're like, whatever, I do droplets in this, or I have my gummy or whatever, however they want to consume, but they're definitely not drinking, man. They're not drinking like everybody else before them did.
I used to run nightclubs for ages, and one of the big downturns we've seen has been in nightlife industry. I think the UK is losing a nightclub a week. There's not like an unlimited number of nightclubs. It's like one is shutting down pretty much every single week. And I asked a friend who's still in the industry why he thought that was the case. He said, smartphones, man. Back in the day, you could be as loose as you wanted. You could sort of have that Larry, louty drinking spirit, at least in Britain.
That they don't want to be recorded?
Of course.
Yeah.
Like if you mess up and like shit yourself in the middle of a nightclub in 2002, it's a story that you can deny the next day.
Yeah.
And then after 6 months, most people have probably forgotten.
Yeah.
Whereas if that happens in 2025, that's now concretized on the internet for everybody to know and bring back up and make memes out of for the rest of time.
I mean, can you imagine like how the pro athletes of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s would just go out and just...
Like every American achievement, GMC trucks are the result of dedication.
Just destroy a woman's hopes and dreams. And then now they're like, everyone's
on edge.
Yeah, everyone's got a phone out. It's just, it's a totally different. By the way, do you ever think about why, 'cause I still remember that, like, why was house music and dancing in general so much bigger in Europe than here? People here were never like, let's go dance.
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess why does any scene of any kind appear anywhere? We certainly have in the UK like a good house music culture.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't have much else to do other than go out and party and drink.
Yeah.
If the weather's bad, then we're not going to go out to the ranch. We're not going to go and see the sunset. We're not going to go to the beach because it's fucking freezing cold all the time. So you kind of just zero in on the one thing that's reliable, which is beer.
Yeah.
pubs or clubs.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just
Beer
remember
pubs
like
or
so many
clubs, I like
times like
that.
being in the States and having like European friends who are like, why don't you guys don't like to go dance? And I was like, no, we're not going dancing, bro. like no. And then I would remember like studying abroad and being like, oh yeah, that was like a normal thing. Just go to a place that was just like packed and everybody just loud music dancing. It just was one of those things where I was like, it just didn't translate over here. I mean, there were still clubs, obviously, but it just wasn't the same type of, oh, I just want to go listen to this and literally dance. Like, that's what people I felt like were doing a lot more in Europe than here.
These are the three decisions that I think everyone makes every moment. First, you're doing it right now. What are you going to focus on? You're going to be focusing on my story I'm telling you. You're going to be focusing on the
What are you focusing on? The conversation, the story, the belief, that identity, that mindset shift.
question you're going to ask. You're going to be focusing on how your stomach feels if you've not eaten. There's a million things you could focus on, literally. But we don't experience life. We experience the part of life we focus on. And so the bottom line is, I know my father and I had a different experience because we had different focuses that day. I was focused on his food. You know, what a concept. This is cool. He was focused on that he had not taken care of his family. And I know that because, you know, he said it about 20 times under his breath. And my mother echoed it, of course. The second decision, though, the minute you focus on something, your brain has to decide, what does it mean?
Yep.
And meaning is what creates emotion. And emotion.
Agreed. Without meaning, you have no emotion. You have no empathy. You have no anything. Without meaning, your life is stripped to the bare minimum of what it could be. Meaning is what draws hope. Meaning is what shows perspective. Meaning is what drives us for doing more things than what we want to do. I'll be right back. How's it coming? So meaning, perspective, and joy is what I got from them. Let me drink some. So, meaning, whatever thing you find purpose and meaningful in, it is. Could be gratitude, could be joy, could be self-acceptance, could be whatever. But whatever joy you find within life, whatever meaning, whatever perspective you find within life, that perspective is all meant for you. You can teach it to other people, you can tell other people, you can do other things for the other people. But whatever meaning, perspective, and joy you find within that life, whatever pleasure you find within the life, is the meaning for you to know. So, I will finish this after dinner, but leave a like, subscribe, and comment what you want to know, and look at my school, please. I have like 40 to like 60 activities based around school, so peace.
Your life is, right? And so the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. If you got $1 billion and every day you're pissed off and angry, your life's quality is called pissed off and angry. If you got 3 beautiful children, a husband or wife you love, but you worry all the time, your life is worry, you know? So his focus and then his meaning, that was the worst part. The meaning he gave it was that he was worthless and didn't belong here. And that usually leads to the third decision, which is, what are you going to do? And look, if the meaning is something happens, you say, this person is dissing me, you know, disrespecting me, or is this person challenging me, or is this person coaching me, or is this person loving me? If you think they're dissing you, you're going to have a very different emotional reaction than if you think they're coaching you or loving you. And then, of course, that's going to change what decision you make. Because if you're angry, you're going to make a different decision than if you're playful or generous or whatever the case may be. So those 3 decisions control our lives. But so your viewers or listeners, I give them an opportunity to take a look at it because there's some patterns that you can make some simple patterns and change your whole life of focus. So the first one is, and I'd ask you 2 questions for you. One, Chris, is what do you think most people's answer to this question is? And the other is what's yours, if you're ready to play. All right? It's real simple. We all have a pattern of focusing on what we have and at times on what's missing. Which one do you think most people spend more time focusing on, what they have or what's missing?
What's missing?
What do you focus more on?
What's missing?
Yes. It isn't something that comes, the focus on what's missing is not something that comes with someone who is a failure. It comes very much with people who are very successful. And the question then becomes, if you're always focused on missing, how can you sustain happiness?
You're in a permanent place of lack.
That's correct. So scarcity is there. So you'll have drive, right, to keep staying on the hamster wheel of achievement, but you're not going to see much fulfillment, not in a sustainable way. It's impossible. It has nothing to do with you or me, right? It's just software. And we got a soul. We're not software, but you run your software so often, you start thinking your mind is you versus my mind is a tool that I'm going to use, or if I don't use it, it's going to use me. So the majority of people do that. And by the way, during COVID, that number exploded because so many things were taken from people. They're constantly focused on what's missing, and that produces nothing but pain. Second question, and I think I know your answer to this one. Which do you tend to focus on more? Which do you think most people focus on more, what they can control or what they can't control?
What they can.
And then which one do you focus more on?
I think most people would probably focus on what they can't control. I'm an even balance, I would say, between the two. I'm
That's
working
good.
quite hard to try.
I was going to say you strive as part of your philosophy, right? To focus on what you can control, right? So that's part of the Stoicism, whole philosophy of Stoicism, right? So, but most people, you're absolutely right. Now, in my seminars, it's different because I got 15, 20,000 people ask that question, and the vast majority of them say they're focused on what's missing, but the vast majority of them say they do focus on what they can control. That's why they came. Why would they spend their money and time? They want to take control of their business or their body or their relationship, or the case may be. So they have a different belief structure. If you have both of those out of, you got some real challenges. Most people have at least one out of whack, which creates stress. And then the third one, and there's many more than these, but just quickie for the people at home, and I'm asking them to do this for themselves if they want to. Where do you tend to focus more? Your past, your present, or your future? We all spend all three, but where do you spend more of your time? Where do you think most people do? Where do you?
Let's say that you only had 10 exercises for the rest of time to build the best body that you could. What are you going to choose?
Yeah,
Talk me through the philosophy.
I've got a roster set up. So when it comes to legs, I think that the idea of crazy heavy squats or leg press all the time as a quad builder, it just wouldn't be it for me. Because I've had periods of time where I basically did leg extensions exclusively. Usually when I diet, my leg extension volume increases because, I mean, squeezing-wise, activation-wise, if you slapped electronic pulse indicators, maybe you could get a real readout of how much they're activating. But for me, like if I had to pick a quad movement, I would just kill it on the leg extensions because you can really pump them up, go a little heavier. Like if I had to pick one, that would be it.
Okay.
Then hamstrings would be, I'd be a little torn, but I'd probably pick, I'm very torn, either seated or laying curl. But either way, a hamstring.
The single greatest skill you can develop is the ability to stay in a good mood in the absence of things to be in a good mood about.
I think that tweet has been my theme for 2025. It's funny because that was the most shared tweet I've ever had, and it was almost not the opposite of ironic. It was fitting, right? It was completely fitting for the year. And it's been because like this year I've had I would say a series of unfortunate events that has occurred, and it's really tested my tools, right? Tools in the tool belt for reframing reality so that I can make my experience less, miserable.
Whether you reframe is a reframe, you get better, you learn, you do, you achieve more when you reframe.
And so I thought about that. It's like if I were to boil everything down of all the skills that you can learn, if everything that we do eventually becomes irrelevant, then the single greatest skill that you can develop is being in a great mood in the absence of things to be in a great mood about. And so one of the other frames on this is most people don't question someone who's in a bad mood. Like, I'm just in a bad mood. So it's like, well, if you can be in a bad mood for no reason, it's like you might as well be in a good mood for no reason, because that one at least serves you. And so I've been trying to exercise, like, because there's, on one degree, there's like, let's count things to be grateful for. On the other side, it's like, why do I have to have things to be grateful for in order to be in a good mood? Like, why is trying to find things a requirement of being in that mood? Like, can I not find things and still choose to be in a good mood? Because I've certainly not had things to be in a bad mood about and been in a bad mood. And so I've been trying to flex that, which is like, sure, we can find things to be grateful for, and when those things pop up, yes, and of course it's it's a practice, you get better at it. But like, what if I could just be in a good mood? And so I've just tried to break that relationship between the two, because then it makes it contingent on something that I can find.
How successful have you been at that?
Mediocre.
Well, look, I think it's a lovely idea in isolation,
Sure.
in theory, but I'm not convinced about how effective it is in practice for the reason that humans have a negativity bias. You know, it's our psychological entropy
100%.
and your ability to detect things that are a risk to you significantly better than your ability to detect things that are just pleasant. Like this morning, I texted you and I was like, hey man, like I really love the feeling I have of anticipation on a morning before we do a podcast. That's a normal, boring, mundane source of pleasure to me.
Yeah.
If I'm not really, really training myself to notice that,
Yeah.
it just fucking falls away with the fact that, I asked for almond milk and I bet this would have been better with like whole milk.
If that's the thing that ruins the day. And the thing is you do notice it though, right? You do notice that. So I've had, one of my themes this year has been focusing on moments, and on both the positive and the negative. And so like when we think back on, if I think back on last year, right, I don't remember probably 95% of the year. Like I did the same things. And so it's like, it just didn't get recorded. Like nothing notable happened. And so really, like when we think about a year, we really just recall a handful of moments, and that's it. And those moments in time are usually very short. And so I've been trying to think about the bad, seasons as, well, maybe it wasn't a bad season. Maybe I had 5 bad days, or really 5 bad moments that I then thought about for the entire season, and turned what would have otherwise been 5 minutes times 5.
They were like, if you want to subscribe, if you want to, I am too tired for this. So, peace.